Hello everyone, I'm Nico and I'm currently teaching English in Beijing, China.
Hi, I'm Roxy. I'm an online English teacher and I teach children from all over the world.
Hello everyone and welcome to our seminar this afternoon. My name's Mark and I'm going to be talking to you about how to pass your assignments with the TEFL Academy. So I'm coming to you this afternoon from a very sunny South Wales. I'm just outside Cardiff. So to get started, can you write in the comments where you are this afternoon? So let's see where people are watching us this afternoon. So we've already got a few people saying hello and from a few different countries as well. That's great to see. Chicago, the Isle of Wight, excellent. Where else? Cape Town, London, Madrid, the Netherlands, cold South Africa, Zimbabwe as well. Excellent. So all over the world, we've got people joining us from all over the world this afternoon. That's great. It's really good to see. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been a teacher for just over 24 years. And during that time, I've taught in several different countries, such as Spain, Mexico, and China. But I've also taught people from lots of different countries as well here in the UK. So I've taught people from Saudi Arabia, Libya, Italy, France, and lots of other countries as well. So this afternoon, we're going to be talking about your assignments. We're going to be talking about what to do to pass the assignments. Now, you're all going to be doing different assignments. You'll be doing different points of the assignments as well on your different courses. So when I'm talking to you now, I'm going to be talking fairly generally about the assignments and about what you need to do. But as I'm talking to you, please feel free to write any questions you've got into the comments. And then at the end, we're going to do a Q&A session where I'll try and get through as many questions as I can that you ask. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we should think about is, why do we even have assignments? Okay, well, there's two reasons for this. As you all know, all of our courses are accredited. And so that we can maintain that accreditation with the awarding bodies, and also to ensure that our courses are a really high standard, we have to ask our students to complete some assignments so that we've got evidence to show what they've done. But also, as our students, it gives you the opportunity to apply the theory that you've been learning through the course. So when will you do the assignment? So the first assignment you will see after you've completed Unit 5. Now, there are a few different ways that you may be asked to access the course, the assignment. So first of all, you may find that you've got an instructional video, which will look something like what we've got here in the chat. And the first thing you should do is to watch those videos, because they will give you lots of really valuable information and help you understand what you've got to do. Okay. And in some cases, you have to watch those videos in order for the assignment to be unlocked. So if you have those videos there, then please do take the time to watch them. It may be the case that when you started the course, you had a handbook, and that handbook, along with other lots of other valuable information about the course, will also give you lots of information about the assignments and about what you need to do in each assignment. So if you've got that handbook, please do take time to read through and carefully understand everything that's in that handbook, because that will really help you. So once you've done all that, once you've looked at all that information, the next thing to do is to create a folder on your computer, your laptop, whatever system you're using. Create a folder for your assignment so that then you can download and you can save all of the documents that we're giving you for that assignment. You can save them all in there. You've got them all in one place. And also all the work that you do is all saved nice and securely in one place. So we try to make the instructions as clear and accessible as we can. But that doesn't mean that there aren't questions. So if you do have questions, please get in touch with us. So you'll see one of two ways of doing this. You can see at the top of the screen there's a link that you click, so customerservice.TEFL Academy, or at the bottom you'll see it says student support. So both of these ways of accessing student support, you'll find these at the bottom of your screen when you log into your course. If you click on that student support button there, three options will appear. So either tutor support, technical support, or admin support. So at this point, you want to be clicking on tutor support. And now in both cases, this will take you through to our ticketing system. You can open a new ticket and you can write your questions in there. Okay. And we've got our academic staff there who are going to be able to assist you and help with any questions you've got about the assignments. However, please remember that, as we mentioned in the terms and conditions at the start of the course, unfortunately we can't preview your assignments. Okay, so we can answer any questions you've got. That's no problem at all. But we can't look at your assignment before you submit it. Okay, so anything that you need to understand, any questions you've got, please do contact us at Tutor Support. Now, a question about referencing. So any material that you use, so any images that you use, any handouts or any material like that, all needs to be correctly referenced. Okay, and you need to create a bibliography for that. Usually at the end, it's usually a separate document. Within Unit 5, within the information that we give you, you will find a referencing guide there. So please take time to look at that referencing guide. I know that it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So I always find it's a good idea just to have it next to me when I get to that point of I need to write the bibliography, just to have the guide next to me so I can see exactly what's expected and just follow that exactly, and you'll be absolutely fine. So our referencing system is based on the Harvard referencing system, and that's the same for all of our assignments. And like I say, all of that information is there, so please take a look at it. For all of your assignments, it's very likely that you're going to need to use some materials like I've just mentioned. So any materials that you use, anything that you access on the internet, whether it's Kahoot or an online worksheet, for example, It's important that as well as the link, you also include a screenshot or a visual of that worksheet. This is really important because sometimes the links could get broken, or there's any number of problems with the link, and then we can't access it, especially if you've done something like Kahoot. And then that might mean that we can't pass your assignment because we can't see the materials that you want to use. So just to help you out, take a couple of minutes, take a screenshot of the material and put that into your materials file. If you find that you need to create more than one file, absolutely not a problem. Create as many as you need to make sure that you've got all of your materials so we can easily see them. Okay. So once you've completed your assignment and you're ready to submit it, just take a moment before you submit. In all the assignments, there is a checklist. So go through that checklist. Make sure that you've done everything that's been asked of you. Then, once you've done that, save a copy of your assignments. So you're likely to be working in like Word or Google Docs or something like that. So save them as a Word or Google Docs, however you've been working, before you convert them. Of course, we all hope that we pass the first time and we don't need to resubmit. But if you do, you've got your original documents there that you're able to make any changes to, if for some reason you did need to resubmit. Once you've saved a copy and you're happy with everything you've done, you've gone through the checklist, then save your files as a PDF. Because of the way our assignment system works, we can only accept assignment documents in PDF format. So unfortunately, if you try and submit in another way, it might not let you, or you might be asked to resubmit. Okay. So yeah, just save it as a PDF. Then once you've done that, so you've saved all your documents as a PDF, the next thing to do is to make sure they're clearly labeled. All right. Again, in your handbook or in the assignment information, there's going to be clear information there about how you should label each document. So take a moment, look at that. And again, that's one of those things I'd say I'd have next to me as I'm saving documents, so I can just check that I've saved everything as it needs to be. We need to have this done in this way so that markers can easily identify what the different documents are. This is especially the case sometimes with materials, where it can be difficult to cross-reference your materials from your lesson plan to your assignment file. Okay. Then you'll have the opportunity just to review or edit any files before you confirm it as your final submission. So take a moment to do that and just be happy and be sure that everything you submitted is exactly what you want. So in that case, you've submitted, all done, excellent. However, all of us occasionally, we make a mistake, and you press that submit button and then you realize, oh no, I've made a mistake. I've submitted the wrong file. In that case, don't worry, it's not a problem. Send a ticket through student support the way that I showed you earlier on. Ask for your submission to be reversed. We'll get onto that for you, and then you'll be able to resubmit the correct documents. Okay, so if it's the wrong file, don't worry at all. It's not a problem. We'll be able to fix it. So then you've done all that and your assignment's ready for grading. So all of our graders are qualified and they're all experienced EFL teachers. So they all know a lot about teaching. On top of that, they all have a marking rubric that they need to follow. So they all have a checklist themselves of what they're looking for in an assignment. This helps to make sure there's transparency and objectivity. So everyone is marking in the same way. Okay. And then to help check that further, all of our courses, assignments are regularly moderated. So we have an internal system where assignments are checked, and then our external awarding bodies also check assignments to make sure that we're following their guidelines. We aim to mark your assignment within 7 working days. Once your assignment has been marked, we will send notification. And then what you do is to log into your course in the normal way. And up in the top right-hand corner where your profile icon is, you just need to click up there. And then you can see that you click on grades. That will take you to the next page where you'll see the courses that you're taking. And it will list all the courses that you're taking with the TEFL Academy. Click on the course that you want to check your grades for. And then that will take you through, and you can see here on the left hand side of our screen here, it's got all of the tests that I've taken, and then down the bottom there, so I scroll all the way to the end and I can see assignment A, and I can see that I've passed it. And if I scroll down a little bit further, I'd be able to see my feedback as well. Okay. So sometimes we might ask you to resubmit an assignment because we need some changes to be made. Okay. In this case, you're given 2 opportunities to resubmit. So in total, you have 3 submissions of each assignment. In your course, on the TEFL Academy website, your original files that you submitted that have been graded, you don't need to delete those. You don't need to do anything with those at all. You can just leave them where they are. The feedback will be there, and it will tell you what you need to do, what changes you need to make before you resubmit. So take time to carefully read through that feedback. Make sure you understand what's being asked of you. Make the changes, and then you can upload. When you resubmit, we will ask you to change the name of your files. And again, if you look in the handbook or the submission information, you'll be able to see there what we ask you to name those files. Then when you're ready to submit, you go to your assignment, select add a new submission. Then you save your assignment, and that's it. That's all you have to do. If you have any questions, if there's anything you're not sure about the feedback that you've got, or you're not quite sure what you need to do, you're not quite sure what you've done wrong, it's not a problem. Send a ticket through to tutor support, and then the marker, the teacher who marked your work, they will be able to give you additional feedback on anything that you're not sure of. Okay, so that's getting through those assignments. The assignment's going to ask you to do a few different things. But one of the things that you will be asked to do is to look at grammar. So when you're looking at the grammar assignment, the first thing to notice is that the model assignment that you are given, that's only a guide. So that's there to show you how to fill in all the templates and how to complete all that information. Your assignment is based on a different grammatical structure. So if the models are present perfect, then your assignment could be first conditional or past continuous, for example. So do bear that in mind, okay? That's just there for a guide. When you're thinking about the grammar that you're going to be teaching and the materials you're going to be teaching with, do think about the age of your students, the level of language that they've got, so what language grading you need to do. Also, bear in mind, is it face-to-face or online? So if it's online, then there's different things that you're going to have to think about. How are you going to get your students to do group work? How are you going to use breakout rooms? If you're going to use like a gap fill task, how are you going to do that online? Will you use a website such as TeacherMade so that your students are able to fill that in themselves online. So they're things that you would need to think about. When you complete a grammar assignment, you'll be asked to follow a PPP grammar lesson structure. There's presentation, practice, and production. And you can see that a PPP lesson has these stages. So what you need to show in your lesson plan is that you have all of these stages. You need to think about the timing, and you need to show the timing for each stage. So each stage isn't going to be equal. So the longest individual stage should be your freer practice. You need to think about how much time you need to give for each stage. You need to start off with a warmer where you're creating a context. In your warmer, it's important that you are not using the grammar that's being taught in that lesson. So if in my lesson I'm teaching the present perfect, then it's important that I'm not asking my students to use the present perfect in the warmer. The way to think about this is I haven't taught them yet, so I can't expect them to use something I haven't taught. Then after the warmer, where you've introduced the theme of the lesson, then you move on to the presentation. And the presentation, we want to see lots of eliciting and concept checking. We don't really want to see any kind of lecture style where the information is just being given to your students. So asking them lots of questions and getting lots of information from them. After that, you're going to go on to the controlled practice stage. The controlled practice, the focus there is on accuracy. So the students are only using the structure, so the present perfect in my example. So I might do a gap fill, sentence completion, matching activity, something like that. So they're only focusing on that grammar. After they've done that, then we go on to the freer practice stage. So in the freer practice stage, they are focusing on fluency. We really want this to be a communicative task. And so in the freer practice stage, students should be using the grammar that they've been learning in the lesson, of course, but they should be able to use any other language, so any other English that they've been learning through their lessons. They can use all of that, so they're not restricted just to using the present perfect. And then you get the plenary. So that's the final stage of our PPP lesson. The plenary is used to check understanding of the form and function, and this can be done in lots of ways. So in the freer practice stage, you may make a note of mistakes that you hear from your students, and then you use that in the plenary, so you go through and get them to correct the mistakes. And that's an important thing, rather than you say, right, this is wrong, this is what it should be. You show them the mistake and you say, right, what should this be like? How would this be correct? So you're eliciting again from them. Another way could be to say to your students, you want them to imagine that you are a new student in the class. You've never heard of the present perfect in our case. You've never heard of the present perfect before. And so can they tell you about it? And then you can listen to what they're saying, and you could also prompt them with questions. So if it's the present perfect, I might say to them, oh, can I use the present perfect to talk about the past? Can I use the ing form in the present perfect? This is not only prompting them, but also means that I can ask perhaps quieter students to check that they've understood. So before you start writing your lesson plan, the first thing that you need to do is to research the grammar that you're going to teach. This is really important, not just for your assignment, so that you're getting your assignment right, but it's good practice for when you're in the real world and you're actually teaching a class. and you need to make sure that you understand the grammar that you're teaching. A really important thing here is to cross-reference. Don't just go to one website. Cross-reference that information that you've got there with other websites. Unfortunately, some websites, even ones that you think are legitimate and they're going to be good websites, unfortunately, sometimes they have mistakes. And in the past, we have had students who have had to resubmit their assignment because they've gone to a website, they've looked at the information, they thought, yes, this is a good website, I trust it. They've read the information there, they've based their assignment on the information they've got there, but unfortunately the information there is incorrect. And so it's meant that their assignment has been wrong as well. So just take a moment, look at the information that you're being presented with, check it somewhere else, make sure you're happy with that information you've been given. There are lots of EFL websites throughout the internet with free resources. So a good thing to do is to just use Google, type into Google what you're looking for. So I might type in TEFL, intermediate, present perfect, gap fill. And then lots of resources will come up. And there'll be lots of free resources there as well. And you just take a moment, have a look at those resources. Just take a moment and just check it's exactly what you want. Start doing that, and then using those resources will then start to give you the knowledge and the expertise that you need to then go on and create your own resources. Okay. And then other things you might use are YouTube videos, for example. There's lots of videos on YouTube explaining grammar rules and so on. So if you're researching the present perfect, you might go onto YouTube, find a video on there that explains it. Make sure you reference that as well. It's also important to remember that you can't use YouTube videos in the presentation stage of your lesson. We want to see how you would present it, okay, not how a YouTube video would do it. Okay, so that's grammar lessons. So we're going to move on now to think about reading lessons. So reading lessons, as you can see, have got 5 stages. So again, we're starting off with that warmer. And again, we're using the warmer to set the context so that students are starting to think about the theme of the reading. Okay. So they've got some idea what it's going to be about. Then we're going to pre-teaching the vocabulary. So what we're looking at here is the vocabulary that our students need to know to be able to understand the text. So you might use a vocabulary profiler to do this, such as Vocab Kitchen. But then once you've got that information, you also need to look and you need to think, right, which of these words do they actually need to be able to understand the text? Because you want to be practicing different skills with your students. And there might be some words that come up which they might not understand, but actually for understanding the text, it's not so important. Once you pre-taught the vocabulary, do a very quick activity just to check understanding. Again, something like a gap fill exercise or a matching activity there, just to check they've understood everything. After that, you go into the first reading. Your first reading task, it's going to be 2 or 3 skimming or scanning questions. So it's just for them to get an overall idea of what the text is about and to be asked a few questions where they can find the information in the text. So they're just going through, there's the answer, they pick it out and write it down. After that, they go into the second reading. The second reading requires a bit more depth of understanding. and also a few more questions. So we will be looking for around 7 to 10 questions here that perhaps have a bit more inference. They're reading between the lines, showing a greater depth of understanding. And then finally, after that, there's going to be a follow-on task, which really it would be good to make this some kind of discussion. So whether it's role play, a debate, discussion, something like that. In a reading lesson, there's not very much opportunity for your students to talk to each other. When they're reading, they can't read in groups particularly. They need to read the text on their own. They might check their answers together, but the actual reading needs to be on their own. So the follow-on task here at the end, make that a speaking task, so they get the opportunity then to use all the language that they've learned in the lesson, and they get to use that in that speaking task. So another thing that you're likely to be asked to do in your assignments is to write teacher language. So when you're writing teacher language, we want to see the actual words that you would use as a teacher. That means that you're using direct speech. Really, you're writing like a script, or something like a play that demonstrates eliciting, concept checking, and instruction checking. So you can see here, there's an example of how we might set out some eliciting. So you can see the teacher is asking questions such as, how does this woman feel? So we're using the picture here of the woman, and we're using that to elicit from the students how they think she feels. Once we've got the word, so here we've got the word happy, get them to think, okay, can you tell me another word for happy? So we're eliciting more, we're getting them to think for themselves. And then we've got the word excited, so we could ask them again, what things might they be excited about? So we're leading them through our questioning to the point that we want to make, but all the time we're eliciting the information rather than telling them. So once we've elicited, then we can concept check. So we concept check to make sure that the students have understood the term. And here we could use simple closed questions, and we try to avoid the term that we're looking at. So you can see here the teacher's asking, do you get excited to go to a party? And the students, of course, are saying yes. And we ask, oh, what about going to the dentist? Would you be excited about going to the dentist? And most of your students are likely to say no. So we're concept checking this idea of excited. Okay, and then we can see, we can ask then, is excited a good or a great feeling? We're concept checking that, so we've got that term, and we're seeing that our students have understood it. So then the last thing to look at with teacher language is instruction checking. So the important thing to remember with instruction checking, once you have given your instructions, don't ask, do you understand? Okay, that's the one question that teachers should never ask. Do you understand? This is because students are most likely going to say yes. And why are they going to say yes? Well, first of all, it could be because they understand. Okay, they do understand. It could be that they don't understand, but they're too embarrassed to say, oh, I don't understand. Can you explain again? Or it could be that they think, oh, no, I do actually understand. I do know. But actually what they've understood is not quite correct. So what we can do is to ask students to repeat instructions, and we can ask them questions. So if we're looking at instruction checking, we would ask things like, what have I asked you to do? Who have I asked you to work with? How long have you got? Just simple questions like this to make sure that they have understood. So looking at the reading lessons, some of our assignments, we ask you to source an authentic text. So an authentic text is something that hasn't been edited for an EFL classroom. So something from the BBC News website, this would be authentic. Something from the British Council website would not be authentic, because that's been created or it's been adapted for use in the language classroom. So sometimes we see people using like TED for a video lesson, for example. That is good. That's an authentic material. When you're looking at authentic texts, it's really important. Consider the age, level, nationality of your students. And remember that all texts must be appropriate for all students in the class. You don't want to feel, you don't want any student to feel alienated, left out, feeling that they can't participate in the class because they maybe have a different opinion to the text that you're using in class. So what I tend to say is that in class I avoid any topics to do with religion, politics, or sex, because in that way you can be sure that you're going to avoid anyone being left out. So we've got an example here. So you're looking for an authentic text for a class of 10 B1 intermediate mixed nationality students. The lesson is about pollution caused by plastic. So what do you think would be the best authentic text for this class? Would it be a cartoon showing a person littering the beach, a statistical report from the Environmental Journal, or a newspaper article on pollution from the Daily Tribune? So what do you think? Type your answers in the chat and let me know. Let's see. So do you think it should be A, B, or C? Okay, yeah, we've got a few coming in. All right, so yeah, we've got a few people saying C. So let's have a look. And the correct answer, you're all absolutely right. The correct answer is C, the newspaper article. It's unlikely that the cartoon will have enough information. And of course, a statistical report is going to be far too detailed and be too complex probably for our class. So a few general hints. Any difficult vocabulary that you come across while you're preparing for your assignments, use the TEFL course glossary and a dictionary to help you to make sure you understand everything. Check that you've downloaded all the documents before you start anything. Use the checklist and the assessment criteria to make sure that you've completed everything before you submit your assignment. And again, before you submit, take a moment to proofread your work. If English isn't your first language, then of course you need to check your language carefully. You've got to make sure that your English is a higher level than the class being taught. And when your assignments are being marked, that's something that has to be taken into consideration. Even if English is your first language, still take a moment, check grammar and spelling, check that you haven't got any errors. Now, we all make mistakes when we're typing things up, and it's always worth giving it that one last check. And as always, if there's something that you don't understand, then please ask, send a ticket, and we'll be able to help you. And then where to get help. So if you've got questions about extensions or any login issues, then contact admin support for that. Any computer related problems or any problems with Moodle, contact IT support, and anything academic or anything to do with your assignments, then contact tutor support for those. Okay, so now it's over to you, and let's see what questions you have got. So this is your opportunity now. Any questions that you've got about the assignments that you are working on, if there's anything you're not sure of, anything you want clarification of, now is a good time to ask. Okay, so let's see what questions we've got about the assignments. So one question that we get asked quite often is, how long does it take to complete each assignment? And you've added the word there, approximately, Sarah. And that's a really important question, is approximately. Of course, everyone is different. And it's going to take some people longer than others. We recommend around 10 hours to complete your assignment. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, here's an interesting question. So, struggling to think of good dictionary activities. Now, dictionary activities are really important because, of course, now the easiest thing to do is to grab your phone and look for the definition in Google or wherever. But actually, using the dictionary, getting a paper dictionary and using that and looking at the information in that is really important, because especially children and teenagers, they're so used to using their phones that what I often see is when you ask them to look for a word, say, I don't know, tiger, no other reason than that's the first word that came to mind, tiger, they open the dictionary on the first page and they go through page by page because they haven't had that practice and they haven't learned those skills of searching for information. So you asked, struggling to think of good dictionary activities, actually getting them just to look for words in the dictionary, asking for specific information. So what kind of word is this? You know, is it a noun or is it an adjective? What's the pronunciation? So find the word in the dictionary, then come and write the pronunciation up on the board. Okay, anything like that. Okay. So thank you for that question. Here's a really good question from Natalia. So thank you for this. Are the assignments best done alongside their units, or can they be done at the end of doing all units, and why? This is absolutely personal preference. Okay, it's entirely up to you. What you need to remember is that obviously you can access all the units in order, but you can access them when you want. The assignments you can only access once you've passed the previous assignment. So if you wait until the end, you've done, gone through all the modules, and then you go back and do assignment A, one thing you've got to be aware of is, have you got time to complete the 3 assignments before the end of your course? So that's something to be aware of. And of course, the assignments are practicing what you have learned in the module so far. So your first assignment is going to be looking just at what you've learned in the first few modules. So you might find it a good way to consolidate the things that you've learned in the first, in those modules. But people do it however they like, and it's, like I say, it's entirely up to you. Okay, we've got a really good question here from Amanda. So thank you for Amanda. How long will it usually take to get a response on tickets regarding your assignments? That's great. We aim to respond to tickets within 24 hours. Okay, so we usually get through to you really quickly. Okay, so if you didn't use any resources, this is a good question. Thank you, Dora. If you didn't use any outside resources, do you leave the bibliography blank? No, you have to submit a bibliography. Now, remember, your bibliography is also going to include the materials that you've used to complete the assignment from the TEFL Academy course. Okay, so you'll need to put those into your reference as well. And really, it's incredibly difficult to complete an assignment well without using any outside resources at all. You need to use images. You're going to need to use a worksheet from somewhere. You're going to need to do some research to find a good freer speaking task, possibly. So, yeah, it's really difficult. It would be very difficult, and it's very, very unlikely. But in that case, you would still need to complete the bibliography, at least with the TEFL Academy material that you've used. So thank you for that. Okay, so a question here from Susan. I've seen it pop up a few times, so I'm going to talk about this. So Susan's asking about YouTube for clarification. No, that's not what I meant. So when you are preparing your grammar lesson, when you're preparing any grammar lesson, whether it's for an assignment or for real teaching, in the real classroom, you may find that you need to do research to make sure that you understand the grammar well enough to be able to explain it to your students. Okay, and in that case, there are lots of different sources that are open to you, and one of those is YouTube. So whether it's for you, so that you understand it and understand how to teach it as well, thinking about the language that you would use to present the grammar to your students, so that can help you as well. So that's what we mean. Okay, so it's doing that research so that you are fully prepared to teach the grammar that you need to teach. Just have a look at other questions we've got here. Okay, so Karen is asking, what if we make up our own game or activity? How do we reference this? Well, in that case, you wouldn't reference it, Karen. If it's something that's entirely made up by you, with no outside guidance at all, then you wouldn't reference it, because you wouldn't need to. So if I was creating a gap fill task, for example, for the present perfect, which is what I was talking about earlier on. So I sat down here, opened a Word document, and I created my own task. Then I wouldn't need to reference that. But if I was thinking, what would be a suitable freer speaking task for the present perfect? I did a Google search and I read a few articles online. And one of the articles that I read had a really good suggestion for a task that I could do. And then I went and I created my own task using the present perfect, but using that idea. Then I would reference that website. Okay. So Patty, you said, so I mentioned TED. A lot of our assignments, they will ask for either speaking or listening. Okay. So yeah, I mentioned it when I was reading. I probably shouldn't have done, but yeah, because our assignments talk about speaking, you can use speaking or listening material, and TED is definitely a really good source for authentic material. Just because there's such a lot of material there, different length talks as well. So there's definitely lots that you'll be able to use for a listening lesson, as you've rightly pointed out there. Yes, it is a good idea to use reference dictionaries and websites. Yes, for checking grammar. And actually, that's a really good point for checking grammar. Remember, I said earlier on that we had students in the past who had to resubmit because the grammar that they were teaching was incorrect, because they were referencing the website where they got that from. We were able to see where they got the information from, and then we were able to let people know about that. That's a grammar that's not used in the assignments anymore, so it's not a problem for us now. Okay. But yeah, if you reference it, that helps us out a lot. Okay. So let's see. So another question here from Sarah. Is there a lot of non-native speakers? We have a wide range of people. You saw when we started the presentation, and I asked where people are from around the world, that we get people from all over the world joining the courses. So yes, definitely a good mixture of people. Okay, a really nice question here from Christine. So thank you for this. I sometimes find it hard to keep up with, or to keep within the maximum word count on open-ended parts. Can you still pass if you submit over the word limit? And the word limit is there for a reason, as it is in any academic task that you're doing. So as much as possible, we do want you to keep within that task. Keep within that word limit. So if you're a little over, we say plus or minus 10%, you'll be absolutely fine. If you're significantly over, so if it's like 1,000 words and you've gotten like 2,000 words, then that could be an issue. Okay, so do try and keep within that word limit. And sometimes it's just like going back through and looking at what you've written, and are there places where you could just be a little bit more concise? Okay, so thank you for that. It's a really good question. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, this is a good question here about grading. So you get one overall grade for your assignment. So on some courses, it's going to be pass, merit or distinction. Other courses, it's pass or fail. So you only get one overall grade. You don't get a grade for each section. Okay. It's just that overall grade. That's the one that you want to look at. So thank you for that. It's a good question. Okay, another great question about translating. Well, thank you, Sophie, for this question. You will see on the course, it might talk about translation and the benefits or the drawbacks of translating. And translating is something which, along with lots of teaching practice and teaching ideas, teaching theories, it goes in and out of fashion. When I started teaching, it was very much out of fashion. Absolutely no translation at all, ever, without any exceptions. During my time teaching, it's gone into fashion and now possibly slipping out again. My own personal preference is I prefer not to translate, because you want the students to understand the language. You want them to understand it and be able to use the language in context. And if they translate it, there's no guarantee that they'll be able to do that. You also have to think about how well you know their L1, because they could translate something, and I've seen this happen more than once. They translate something and they think, all right, I understand it, and they show it to all their friends and everyone, oh yeah, that's right. And actually it's not. It hasn't translated quite right, or there's a few different possibilities and they haven't picked out the correct one. Okay. So I personally avoid it, and I prefer to try and get my students to understand, and I just explain it in lots of different ways, using images, using realia, body language, all kinds of things to try and get them to understand rather than translation. But you will see articles, you will see material that allows for translating, and schools as well that will accept or not. So probably the best thing to do is see what you feel most comfortable with. Okay, what else have we got? Okay. So Amanda just mentioning about the word limit. So yeah, like I said, it does say the maximum not to go over 10%. So we say sort of plus or minus 10%. So be aware of that, and try to keep within the word limit. Okay. There's a few very specific questions about your assignments and feedback, which I haven't brought up because they're very specific to you. So if you've got specific questions about your feedback, then probably it'd be a good idea to drop a ticket through to tutor support. Okay, and they will be able to help you. Okay, we are pretty much out of time. It's been great to talk to you this afternoon. There's been some really great questions, which is good to see. So thank you very much. So thank you very much for attending. We look to see you all again soon. Please let us know what you thought about this webinar. It helps us to improve, and also the questionnaire gives you the opportunity to say what you would like to see in future webinars. So please take a moment to complete that survey that's there. And thank you all very much for attending this afternoon, and hope to see you all again soon. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.